Hi all, in this video let's learn about how to create the website layouts using CSS Grid layout. In few days back we used to use table layouts and float layouts to create the website layouts. But with the CSS Grid layouts we can create the complex web layouts easily, and also we can create them with the responsiveness as well. So let's see that in this video. So first thing is, what is a grid system? CSS grid. So you can define your layout or the website in this way. So this is 3 by 3 row, 3 by 3 grid system. So for example, you have 3 rows here. So we can say this as a first row, second row, third row. So row can be counted like this. This is the first row, this is the second row, this is the third row. In a similar way, we have columns, first column, second column, third column. So this layout, usually we call this as a 3 by 3, 3 rows and 3 columns we have. So that's the reason it is called as a 3 by 3 grid layout. So like this, this is a grid system. So now we will be creating the real web layouts. So usually the popular website layouts will be creating with the help of this CSS grid layout. Okay. Now, if you understand what are these rows and columns, it would be easy for us to define the layouts. So for example, I'm taking one more paint, and now let's create one website layout, popular website layout. So for example, this is a website, and we can say this as a header. Okay, later on, so we can say this as a nav bar, navigation bar, and later we can give a more space to the main layout, main content, where we can display our content. And here you can give the ads or a sidebar. We can call this as ads or sidebar, and here we'll be going with the footer. So this is a popular website layout. So let me write this accordingly. So this is a header component, like header element, and this is a navigation bar. So this is a main article. So this is a footer, and this is a sidebar. You can use this as a sidebar, or you can use this as a like a site ads as well. Okay, for displaying the ads, as you can use this part. So this is a famous layout. So let's create this type of layout. If once you create this type of layout, and if you understand what the CSS grid properties are, then you can easily create any of the layouts, website layouts easily with just a minute changes between the properties. Okay, so let's now define this. Okay, for that I will be taking an HTML page. So now let's define what all we need. So the first thing is we need a header. So I'm using semantic tags here. So I'm using header, and I will write header here. So now later on I need one nav bar, right? So I will create nav. So we have a semantic tag nav as well. So nav. Okay, later on I will create the article. So this is for the main layout. Okay, I'm creating this as an article. So I'm writing the all the HTML elements now. Okay, so later we'll write the CSS and apply the changes, grid system changes to these elements. So now next, so I will take a normal div. Okay, div. This is for the ads, or you can call it as a sidebar, or ads you can call. So later on we have footer. So we also have footer semantic tag. So I'm using that. So I'm using the footer. So now we have header, nav, article, sidebar, and footer. So whatever we have defined in this, so header, nav bar, main article, sidebar, and footer. So we have 5 things here. Okay. So we have defined all these 5 things in terms of elements like this. So now if you check how the output is coming. So if you go back to the browser, so see, you can see the output in this way. This is not the expected layout. What we need to do is, this is the what we need to have, but we are getting this. Okay, now we need to keep the CSS grid system, and we need to maintain the layout. So let me show how we are going to achieve that. So for that, I'm using the styles. So I'm using the style tags here. Now I'm applying these changes to the body level, because from this body we have all the elements, right? So I'm taking this body as a container. Okay, to use the grid system, grid layout, the first property we need to use is display grid. Okay, this is the first property we need to use. So once you use this display grid, it means this element like this grid, all the elements inside this will be available in the grid container. It means now body element became the grid container. All the elements will underline to the grid properties now. Okay, the first property we need to display is display grid. Okay, the second and the third properties are like you need to mention grid, template, rows. Okay, how many rows you want and how many columns you want. So those are the next two main properties. So now let's assume what is the template we are using and what all the rows and columns, how many rows and columns we need to use there. Okay, fine. We have this layout and now we need to find out how many rows and columns are there in this layout. So now let's check. So this is the first row. Okay, and now this is the second row. This you can call as a second row, and this is the third row. It means you have three rows, 1, 2, and 3. The last for this is a 3. You have three rows. Okay, now coming to the columns, you have for one column, and this is a second column, and this is a third column. So here this is also in terms of 3 by 3 grid itself, but the space occupied is more. It is not. It is not like earlier we have seen 3 by 3 layout, like we will be using boxes 3 by 3 9 boxes. It's not like that. So here you have row 1, row 2, row 3, column 1, column 2, column 3. This layout is also 3 by 3 column. Fine. So it means you need 3 columns, 3 rows. To design a website layout like this, you need 3 columns, 3 rows. Fine. So the first row needs some space, only small space. And the second row, it needs more space here. Okay. And the third row, it needs only the small space, the footer. For this footer, you need only the small space. So now first define the spaces. How much spaces the rows should be occupied. And next, how much spaces the columns should be occupied. Now we are going with the rows. First is the 80 pixel, first thing. So at the top, I will be giving 80 pixel here. To this, I will be giving 80 pixel. And to this footer, I will be giving the 70 pixel. And the rest, I'm saying the rest of the available space, I'm saying to use for this second row, entire second row, because this second row is a main one, right? All this second row is a main thing we need to have. The first row and the last row, I'm giving only some space, and the middle, I'm giving more space because the main content goes here. So that's the reason we are giving more space to the middle row. How we are giving is the first row 70 pixel, first row 80 pixel, and the third row has a 70 pixel, and giving one FR. So what is one FR is we are mentioning this in terms of fractional units. One FR like this, if you're mentioning means take the remaining available space. I'm saying the 80 pixel to the header, 70 pixel to the footer, and the remaining row space I'm giving that for as 1 FR. All the available space will be taken as a 1 FR now here. Okay, now we have defined the rows. Now next what we need to do is we need to define the columns. How many columns are there and what is the space it is going to occupy. So let's go back. So how many columns we have? We have one column here, two column, and three column. We have three columns. Fine. So what are the spaces it is occupying? So the first column, it is occupying this space. Okay. The first column is occupying this much space. So we can say this as 20% of the page. So the third column, it is occupying 15%. Okay. And we need to, the middle column, it is taking more space because the main article, the main space will be here. Main content goes here. So it means first column 20%, third column 15%, and the rest of the space we can give to the main article. Fine. So in this way, I'm dividing the column space like 20 pixel, first column, 1 FR. The remaining space we are giving to the middle content. Okay. In this way, we need to understand how many rows and how many columns we need. So we need 3 rows, we need 3 columns. We understood that, and we have given how much space we need for the first row, for the second row, for the third row. How many columns we need? 3 columns. What is the space? 20%, 1 FR, 15%. Like this, we need to decide what is the 3 by 3 layout or 4 by 4 layout. How many layout? What is the grid layout? First we have. So later on, we need to define the rows and columns like that. How many rows I want, how many columns I want, what would be the space for each row and space for each column. So this is what we need to do. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to give some space between the rows and the columns. Okay, now for that you can give like this: grid row gap 10 pixel, and grid column gap 10 pixel. You can give like grid column gap, you can give this, and you can give 10 pixel. Okay, now the main part comes into the picture now. So we also need to define the height. 100 vh is a viewport height. So it means we are mentioning what is the container height here. Okay, now here comes the main properties like grid template areas. Okay, grid template areas. So this is the main thing we need to understand. So here what we need to do is, what is, so here you have mentioned the all these elements, and now you need to mention which element should come in this grid area, template area. Okay, so for example, let me mention this as a header, header, header. Now you will understand this is one row. Okay, and in the three columns, this is one column, this is one column, this is one column, three columns you have mentioned. So you are saying that these are the grid template areas, means you are mentioning some grid area names. You are mentioning these names so that these elements will come and align in these areas. Okay, like this you need to mention that is the first row. And now if the second row starts with what is the second row is there, nav is there in the second row. Okay, I will give nav. Okay, next we have article, so I will give this as article. Next we have sidebar, so we give this as a ads. Okay, this is a second row. Okay, what we have, nav, main article, and sidebar. In the second row we have, in the first row what we have, entire first row is header, header, header. Okay, all the columns also we have header itself, so that's the reason we wrote three times this. Okay, in the second row what we have, nav, article, and sidebar. So that's the reason we have given nav, article, and sidebar, three things. Okay, these are grid area names. Okay, where we are going to refer them, I will mention that. So after that we have, so about the third row also we have nav ones. Okay, we have nav ones, and two times footer is there, so that's the reason nav, footer, footer. Okay, this is what we have. Now we have mentioned the 3x3 layout. Okay, this is what the 3x3 layout, and we have mentioned the names of the grid areas. Okay, this is a 3x3, like you have three rows, 1 2 3, three columns, header, 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 nav, article, ads. So this is what we have defined the grid template area. Why we have defined this is, we have elements, and these elements don't know which space to be occupied. Okay, that's the reason we have mentioned this grid template area. So even now, so let's now verify whether we got the output or not. See, we got output, but this is not the output we have expected. Fine. Now still we need to do some more thing. So let me do that. So you have wrote something, grid template area. It means which template should be occupied what area, but we have not defined the grid area names. These names should be referred with the IDs. So let me refer that quickly. So before that, yeah, I will refer them here. Okay, now I will refer page header. I will write this page header. This is an ID I'm defining, and I'm mentioning the grid area name. The grid area name is grid area name. The grid area name will be the header. Okay, so it means I will use this grid area ID here. ID is equal to, I'm using the selector page header. Okay, and I'm applying this styles to this element. Okay, what I'm doing, I'm using one ID, page CSS selector ID. The ID name is page header, and I'm applying that ID to this header element. By that, these styles will be applied to this element. What all the styles mentioned here is grid area header. It means I'm referring header name. Okay, what is this header is about here? Where this element should come, that is a grid area name. With this name, we are referring where this element should come. So as this header is applied to this header element, this element will come here, header, header, header throughout here. So it means the grid area we are using names and we are referring them in the grid template area. Fine. Now we'll write like this for the other elements as well. So now I need to take page header I have taken. So let me take the page footer. For that also I need to keep the grid area name as footer. So even you define this, it will not apply to this footer directly because I need to mention the ID and I need to say that this element should use this styles. So then only it can understand and it can come there. Page footer. Fine. Now let me explain this again. So I have an footer element and I'm giving one ID page footer and I'm giving that CSS selector to this element. So that's the reason this styles will be applied to this element. And what all the styles we have mentioned, we have just set grid area, which area this element should be covered. That area is a footer. I'm giving grid area footer. So now it will refer here. Okay, where does I need to come? Okay, I need to come in the third row, second column and third column I need to come. So this footer will come in these areas. So like that, you need to mention the grid area for other elements as well, like main article. Okay, I will mention the main article and I will give the grid area. Okay, I will give the grid area as a article. Okay. Okay. Now next I will mention. So I need to give this main article to the main element. Here I need to give this as ID and I need to mention that area. So if I mention this grid area and I then only this grid area naming reference here, the main article will be coming. Okay, you're getting. So in the similar way, I need to mention for the side nav as well, nav bar and side nav. So main nav. Okay, the grid area will be nav. Okay, and I need to give ID to this nav. ID equal to main nav. Okay, fine. So now next what I need to do is I need to give one more ID for the normal site ads like that. I can give this as site ads and I can mention the grid area as ads. Okay, fine. So I will give the ID here for the sidebar. Can give the ID as a site ads. So this is what we are using for the site ads. Okay, fine. So now we have all these elements and we are referring these elements with these IDs so that these IDs are defining the grid area where these elements should come. So these IDs will define the grid name, grid area name, ads. So in sense, whoever has this ID, they will be appearing at this reference area. Okay, this is what the thing we have done. So we are referring the grid area and the grid templates. Okay, now for the appearance purpose, let's have some more stylings. We'll define some more stylings. Like let me define the header, footer. I'm doing the like a grouping of CSS. Okay, article, comma nav, comma div. So for all this, let's give some spacing and some color. So let's give the padding as 1.2 em. Okay, now let's give some background color as well. Okay, background color, we can go with the gold. Okay, fine. So now let's check whether we could able to achieve that or not. So what we here we have done is we have defined the grouping, all the elements we have defined, and we have wrote what styles should be applied to these elements. In short, we are applying the background color to these elements and some sort of padding. So let's check we could able to achieve this or not. See, we could able to achieve this. Okay, I have zoomed the screen. So if I go back to 110%, so this is what it appears. So this is a major website layout we used to use in the real-time environment. Okay, in this way, you can modify whatever the layout you want. For example, if I want this navbar to be occupied here, in the first row also, I need to occupy this navbar. What I need to do? Come back here. You need to occupy the nav at the top also, right? So now in the place of header, I'm giving nav. That's it. If you go back, so it was occupied here. Fine. If you want this footer to be occupied here, what you need to do, this footer should be occupied here. It means, so go back, this footer should occupy this nav space. So then remove this nav and keep the footer. So it will occupy, see, it has occupied this space. Okay, in a similar way, if you want this article to be come in the sidebar, and the sidebar should come to the article space. Okay, like this you can do, like a article I want in here and sidebar here. So what I need to do is I need to change ads here and article here. Okay, that's the first step I need to do. If you see here again, so what happens? So I have changed the article and sidebar. So now let's see what happens here. See, sidebar came here and article came here. But the thing is, sidebar should have a small space, small area like this, and article should have more. For that, what we need to do is we need to modify the columns. So for example, I will go back to the columns here. In the columns, what I need to do is I need to give this space, like 15% we have given for the sidebar. Okay, that I will give at the middle column. Middle column should occupy the 15%. So that's the reason 15% I am given here, and one FR, the free space should be occupied by the article. So see, it very easily we could able to modify the layouts. Whatever the layout you want, you can achieve that by just modifying the grid template areas and the template rows and columns spaces. So this front back like this you can, and even if you want more columns, more rows, now you can define them here. So this is the example of 3x3 layout. You can add more layouts with different dimensions, and also you can add your rows and columns here as well. Okay, so this is a example where you can create a number of website layouts by using these 3 properties. Okay, just practice this grid layout so that it will help us a lot while you're creating the website layouts. These layouts, or you can create advanced and the responsive layouts with this grid layout. Fine. Hope you understand the video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more videos.